Tiffany here with Cards Crafty Creations. So today what we're going to do is we're going to take this notebook that I got at the store. It has mushrooms and flowers on it. It's actually, it says notes, but it can also be a planner as it has the months and days above. It's not a year specific planner, so you can start it at any time during the year and use it for whatever you want. But I thought I would kind of spruce this up a little bit, add some extra elements, and I thought this would be a fitting image to include on the cover. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do today. I am going to cut this out with the Tim Holtz decal trimmer so that it gives it a kind of a jaggedy, rough edge, kind of like an old picture, but in that way it doesn't have to be completely perfect, and it kind of goes with the aesthetic of imperfection of found in nature with the mushrooms and flowers and all of that, kinds of some whimsy and not so serious, but something a little creative. I'm going to matte this image with black, not a very large matte, but just enough to emphasize that decal trim, so that you can see that it's not hidden away, a little bit emphasized but not too much. So usually when I glue something, I do like to have a paper towel with me so I can wipe the excess glue away as I'm smoothing it out. That way it kind of smooths the glue underneath and squishes out the excess so it's not like clumped underneath, and the paper towel just helps wipe some of that up. Here what I'm going to do next is I am going to get out, you can see it was the Tim Holtz paper pad of metallic papers, and I'm going to use orange to kind of complement to the mushrooms orange and the orange in the notebook. And so I got that piece cut. And then what I'm doing here, and I usually do this on all of my edges of chipboard that are going to be exposed and not covered up, is I like to cover them or trace them with either black or brown depending on what I'm working with, Sharpie marker, so that it covers up or somewhat hides that brown chipboard edges. I know you won't see them, but should you happen to look at a different angle of that notebook, I'd rather it just be black than seeing a chipboard color that doesn't really go well with what I am actually, whatever my theme is. Okay, so I'm just going to put this on top of that chipboard piece, and this is really going to be our main focal point on top of that notebook, giving it the extra character. Here I am trying to sort out all of the elements I'm going to add to embellish that. And what I've been doing recently is taking embossing folders and embossing the paper and then cutting them out with the die cut. That way the die cut has some dimension and additional character than just being a solid piece of paper. I'm going to use this border punch, which to me, I find it very hard to find border punches these days, and I really do like using them. They're much faster than doing die cuts, and they have a lot more character to them than what some die cuts have. And even border die cuts are hard to find these days too, so I'm glad that I did acquire some border punches when I did, and I do tend to get them when I can nowadays. So here I am getting ready to cut out the crow. I'm going to emboss it with this spider web and then cut the crow out. When I die cut the crow out, it will take away some of that embossing dimension, but it does not take away all of it. It is still very much visible. So this is me adding those border punches to the edges of our main focal point. I thought that would add an additional element of character to the front. Maybe even a little bit let this part stand out a little more than getting a little hidden into the background. I am not gonna lie, I really struggled doing this part. It was hard to figure out how to line that die cut up on the edges so that it didn't look like it was overlapped or didn't match up at all. So I ended up cutting the corners off and trying to round them. You're going to see that I changed this up at least 3 times to try and camouflage those edges or make them in a way that's presentable to me. I maybe have been a little picky about it. I could have just let it be, but it just wasn't. When I cut and rounded those edges, they weren't cohesive because of the way the die cut was, and I just really couldn't get myself to really like those corners. So I'm gonna adhere it to the book and make sure it's as straight as I can get it. I do use coasters. This is something a friend had showed me, was instead of sitting there and holding my project while the glue sets, I have bought, actually people have given me coasters, and I've bought some fairly heavy weighted coasters, and I just set those on my projects while I wait for them to dry so that I can move forward. Here's where you can see that I attempted to put some circles on the corners. I have some rhinestones over to the left that I was going to add to those circles, and I still just really was not liking that because they would have sat outside of the corner because the chipboard is there, which is giving it dimension. So I took those off. Now I'm going to adhere my rhinestones to those circles and let those dry. I even put the coaster on those to let those set, you know, because sometimes when you're using liquid glue it'll kind of bow up, and so by me putting that coaster on those while those set keeps them flat. But yeah, so I'm going to struggle at least I think 2 more times with those corner pieces. But in the meantime, I'm going to put my crow on there on top of the skull. That seems fairly fitting. That's typically what you see people doing when there's a skull involved, is add a crow to it, and you're on par with some creepy aesthetics. But I'm not going for creepy aesthetics here. I'm just going for whimsical and maybe a little bit of creepy factor, but it's not emphasized to be like a Halloween situation. I'm going to add this. This is a, what do you call it? Like a transparency mushroom. So I'm going to stick that on there with foam adhesive, give it some dimension to it. Now I'm going to attempt these rhinestones again, these circles, and I'm thinking I'm going to put a foam dot on there, and that's going to give it the dimension I need to rise it up onto that chipboard. But it actually really wasn't. It was making the corner, it was making it like sag on the end. So the one corner was raised and the other part was drooping down. So that really frustrated me as well. So I'm going to move on until I can figure out a new way of dealing with it. And it looks like what I actually just ended up doing in the end. I even got some chipboard pieces out so that it'd be the same dimension as the main focal point, and even that was just not cutting it for me. So I ended up just gluing them straight onto the chipboard element corners and just let them hang over the edge. They're not hanging over enough to cause an issue, and they actually do seem fairly stable by adhering them mostly to that base piece. I thought it'd be great to put a butterfly on here, so I have some transparency butterflies as well. And I was going along with the same theme of trying to find an orange butterfly or a butterfly that had orange in it, but none of these are really hitting it for me. They're not really making the mark. So I actually end up scrapping those butterflies and getting out some more cream colored butterflies, more the mushroom stem color of butterflies, and I did happen to like these much better, so I did choose one of those to go onto the mushroom cap. I add the foam dots to that too, so it'll have dimension and stand up. Otherwise it kind of will blend in too much to, you kind of almost lose it when you're putting a transparency over pattern paper, so it does make more sense to pop it up with something. So I had adhered some rhinestones earlier, and I thought I should bring in another element, some more black, as the crow is so much black and solid on the project. So I brought in these half back black pearls to just bring that black throughout the project, so it's not just in that one area. This was a pretty fun project, and it helped add some additional character to an already really cute notebook, and so I'm pretty pleased with it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that you will like and subscribe, and that you will come back again for the next video. Thanks so much.